A little while ago, I was making the drive from DC to Boston, and I decided to stop at all 6 Ivy League schools that are along the way, because I had only been to one of them before, and I've always been curious what these schools are actually like, especially now having the perspective of actually going through college myself. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions of each of their locations, campuses, and overall vibe, and ranking them. So let's kick things off at the most southern Ivy over here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Welcome to Penn, aka the University of Pennsylvania. So first location, Penn is just west of downtown Philadelphia, and yes, while the university is technically in Philadelphia, it's still like a 10-minute drive from the heart of the city, so it doesn't really feel like Philly. So location, in my opinion, is a 7 out of 10, just because it's still on campus, but you're right next to a big city, but the city itself is not the best city. Now the campus itself is very rectangular. It's maybe like 8 by 3 block. Right now I'm on the very west side of, and this seems like the very residential part of campus, primarily because it has 3 very tall, what I assume are freshman dorms. Then there's a bridge that takes you to the main part of campus. Now immediately after the bridge, I'm greeted by a ton of academic buildings, some on the older side, some on the more modern side. But the most notable one of all is probably right here, and that is Wharton, their business school. And this is one of the nicest business schools I have ever been in. Definitely lives up to its prestige. Campus is honestly really nice to walk through, especially right now. At the very south end of campus, there's some more student housing over here, and it's actually fully like gated, and there's a security guard and everything. There is at least a little bit of public transit connection to get to Philly, which is nice. I was so close to ramming my head on that. And yeah, campus just continues like that for a while. Just this long pathway with other diverging ones off of it, surrounded by a bunch of smaller academic or office buildings. Here on the north end of Penn's campus, you have Walnut Street, which is their version of like a main street, if you will. A few cafes, restaurants, shops, nothing too crazy. But again, you're right next to one of the biggest cities in the US. And yeah, pretty neat, cool vibe. The main Penn bookstore is right here, and it's actually really massive. I'm here with, what's your name?
Charlie.
Charlie. Cool. So what is your biggest like and dislike about Penn?
So what I like about Penn is, just having this distinct, unique like campus feel in the middle of the city. I kind of want to be in an urban area, but at the same time have a campus. I think Penn does one of the best jobs at kind of blending that.
I think the one thing I wish there was more of was like greenery and nature, because sometimes I feel like I'm always kind of in like an urban area.
Thank you. What's your name?
I'm Lucy. My biggest dislike is that my dorm hill is so far away from Commons, which is my favorite dining halls. And my biggest like is I've made a lot of friends here and everyone is really nice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Overall vibes of Penn, I felt like coming into this, going to all Ivies, I'm expecting a little more like uptight students, a lot of stressed people walking around, but I didn't really feel that here. Like a lot of people were just walking around casually talking. The people I approached were super nice. Even in Wharton, which is where I'd expect the most of that, everyone seemed to just be pretty casual. I got the sense that most people are like pretty social. A lot of athletes walking around for sure from the backpacks. I would say overall, and this is a little hard to judge without having gone to the other schools yet, so this might change later, but overall, pretty nice vibe. Now let's start the journey up the New Jersey Turnpike with one stop in the middle of it, which is of course Princeton University in Princeton, New Jersey. And I hate how dark it is. It's literally 5:15 p.m. I hate daylight savings. But anyways, I got some shots of campus before it got dark, and I'll be playing that soon. But before you get that, location. Princeton is located in the center of New Jersey, and at least all the ones in this video, you could make an argument for Dartmouth or Cornell. Of the 6 in this video, I would say it is the most isolated of the campus, and that's just because it's not right next to a big city, although you are like an hour and a half from New York, an hour and a half from Philadelphia, so it's not too out of the way. For as small of a school as Princeton is, you really don't feel that with the campus. Like, it honestly feels pretty sizable, and I really like it. Like, everything does seem kind of cluttered at first, but then after walking through, I realized there's one area full of a bunch of academic buildings. There's like the campus center in the middle, which was okay. Now, out south, you have like the sports stadiums, a big residential college. The west side is a bunch of dorms for freshmen and sophomores, and then at the top, you have downtown Princeton. Maybe it's just because it reminds me a little bit of Franklin Street over at my school, but the vibes on this street, especially like at sunset now, all the cars, all the students walking around, it's immaculate. I'm kind of loving this, and it is 5 steps from campus. Tell me this doesn't feel like you're at the bottom of some like mini castle or something like that. That's so cool. So I'm gonna give their campus a 9 out of 10. I really like it. But you wouldn't get bored of this after just a couple months of going to the school like you would in some of these other campuses. And then of course you can't see it very well, but you have the whole freaking Princeton chapel right in the center of all of that. And usually chapels on campuses are very hit or miss in my opinion and how they fit in, but I think this one fits in really well and it looks really nice. Overall vibes of Princeton are interesting. A lot of students did seem kind of in their own world, mind their own business, that kind of vibe, but there was a good amount of people and the library was very active for whatever that's worth. But yeah, there was a lot of students like walking on the main street, hanging out and stuff like that too. What's your name?
I'm Saad.
What's your favorite thing about Princeton's campus?
Well, I got lucky. I got a pretty nice room. You know, it's newer. I have my own bedroom and a semi-private bathroom. Not everybody gets that lucky though. Oh, that's in Scully Hall. Is that I wish that students were allowed to park their cars on campus. Princeton is the only school out of like, you know, other Ivy Leagues that doesn't allow student parking at any cost.
And they're the ones that are in cities. So
they're the ones that are in cities, right? And we have tons of land. We're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
We have fields everywhere, and they don't let us park.
All right, hello. It is the next morning. It's a windy one, and welcome to New York City. I spent the night here, and then came here and literally spent over an hour finding a parking spot, which is, I mean, obviously totally what I expected in New York. Anyways, we did make it, and we are on the south border of Columbia University here on 114th Street in New York. And that, of course, brings me to location. Columbia is, of course, in New York City, and while it's not technically in the heart of the city, like Midtown or Lower East or that area, you're in New York City, and basically all of New York City is chaotic and has that same NYC energy. You can easily get to anywhere in the city from the subway system, and there's 2 stations right on the bottom and the top of Columbia. So as we enter campus here, location for me gets a 9 out of 10. Unlimited food options, unlimited things to do. Yeah. Coming in from that entrance spits you right into the center of campus, and basically everything you see around me right now is probably like 80% of the campus. Like, it is definitely the smallest one in this video, and that's of course because you're in New York City. There's limited space everywhere. Now all of Columbia's campus is kind of just in 4 nooks that surround that main central area. Each one of them has like a few department buildings and then either one of like a dining hall, gym, a dorm. And all of them are usually like key card locked, which again makes sense being this close into the city. Yeah, honestly, it is a little quieter than I expected. Like, I don't hear too much noise going on right now. It doesn't feel like the middle of the school day. It is a Friday at noon right now. I don't know where I wandered to right now, but overall, it's definitely a little more spaced out than I would expect it to be, being in New York City. Like, it does feel separate enough from the city, especially compared to like NYU, where there's literally no campus, so I like that. But that being said, and yes, it's not really its fault, but it is pretty compact. Like, I feel like you could walk the entire campus in 15 and 20 minutes. And if that was your home for 4 years, I don't know how great that would feel. I don't know what this building is, but this might be the coolest and craziest and weirdest statue I've ever seen all at the same time, especially for being at a college. The overall vibe here is a little hard to judge. I feel like there's definitely a little bit less people walking around than I thought, especially for such a small campus. There's a lot of international students, which is cool, but I'm getting a little more of a like headphones on, get out of my way kind of vibe when I pass a lot of people, which is fine. But yeah, overall I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. I like the other ones a little better, I will say that. And I think, again, this is just the nature of being in a city versus a little bit of a more smaller town like Princeton. All right, I'm here with, what's your name?
Miles.
Miles. What is your biggest like and dislike about Columbia?
Well, I love how beautiful campus is, but also that it's located in New York City. There's so many opportunities there just to get out, have fun.
Right.
Dislike though, I think similarly though, being in the city and there are so many opportunities, it's really hard. It can be hard to balance at times, academic life and social life and things like that.
Awesome.
So kind of twofold.
But let's get out of the city. Probably spend another hour doing that, and then hop back on 95 to get to our next state, which is Connecticut. Welcome to New Haven, Connecticut, and welcome to Yale University. I am standing in what is called the New Haven Green. It's just this really beautiful field in the middle of campus, I think. I don't really know. This campus has a very strange layout, as I'll talk more about in a bit. Yeah, location-wise, I don't know too much about New Haven, but from what I gather, I think New Haven and Yale kind of go hand in hand. Like, you can't have one without the other. It's weird. When you look at the map, it feels like you see a little bit of Yale, and then a little bit of the town New Haven, and then a little bit of Yale, and so on. So I think I'm on the very south end of campus right now, and yeah, this whole area is downtown New Haven, as you can probably tell. And honestly, it's a little bigger than I thought. Like, it's pretty sizable. Has a few office buildings and a bunch of restaurants and everything else that you'd see in a normal downtown. I am going to give location a 6 though, just because even though New Haven seems like a cool place, it does seem very residential. You are in pretty good, like, 2-hour train or drive distance from both New York and Boston, which is nice. Over a little further north, just west of another, like, prominent side of campus, you have this, which I've never seen that before, but I realize this is called Benjamin Franklin College, and it's just like a massive residence hall, I think. So a lot of students, freshmen and above, stay right here. And it looks old, but it looks like pretty massive. This feels like a maze and no one's around. It's really weird. But if this really is like a place where just all freshmen live, this would be so cool. Just all living in one almost village area. They also just have like an ice rink right next to campus, which is very Connecticut. But I do think Yale hockey is actually pretty good, so valid. Alright, so Yale's campus, the best way I can describe it is kind of like elongated. Like, you have that downtown part in New Haven, and then you have the area at the bottom with a couple academic buildings, and then it just kind of sprawls up through residential New Haven almost. Overall, I don't know, I just didn't like the feel of not having a distinct campus and a place where it all kind of comes together. So for that, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 for campus. I'm with, what's your name?
I'm Mark.
And what is your biggest like and dislike about Yale?
Yeah, so I think Yale has a really beautiful campus. I know you're comparing ivies, so it's a lot better, frankly, than a lot of the ones I've seen.
Okay.
The architecture here is like insane. Our libraries are like best in the world. I don't love a lot of the like modern buildings they try to do. Like this glass building right here that we're next to. It's kind of an eyesore. Like, stick to Gothic. You guys are good at it.
So I can't actually get into their business school, which, as you can see there, looks really swanky. I always consider that a plus, so it's really interesting to hear someone that doesn't like the modern and prefers just like everything to be Gothic. And if that's you, then maybe the campus has a higher rating for you than for me. Quick pit stop at Haven Hot Chicken here in New Haven. And it's really good. Shout out their slider. Might be the fanciest entrance to any student center I've ever seen. My camera died, that's why I'm doing this now. That building is actually their main library. So I'm noticing a trend here. A lot of these ivies have their biggest, most iconic building on campuses be their library. With all that being said though, I do think my favorite part of Yale's campus was the old campus. As you can see here, it definitely gave it a lot more of an identity and it was really nice to walk through. I'm still going to slot Yale at number 3 for now, below Columbia and Princeton. And now, a couple of hours later, I was really trying to beat the sunset, but I couldn't do it. But there's still a good amount of students walking around. The buildings look open. So I'm going to make the best of this that I can. Welcome to Providence, Rhode Island. It's my first time in Rhode Island. And welcome to Brown University. Again, I apologize for the darkness, but I'm going to do my absolute best to describe Brown. First of all, it's pretty tiny. A lot of people don't realize that, but Brown, when I was walking around it, it felt almost half the size of Princeton, even though it has more students than Princeton does. So as a result, it did feel a little more crowded, but at the same time, it still had everything any good campus should offer, with a good spread of academic buildings, residence halls, a pretty solid student center, and a good amount of greenery too. And it's all broken up by only a few streets, and speaking of these streets, just going a couple minutes down them will take you to downtown Providence, which brings me to location. It is obviously right next to Providence, Rhode Island, which isn't the biggest city in the world, nor does it have the most to do, but it is still fairly a prominent city, and you honestly don't even have to go to downtown to get that city feel. As right next to Brown, there are 2 or 3 streets that almost feel like a downtown in itself, with some local bars, restaurants, and shops, and I really like that. It almost gave it a college town feel, even though I wouldn't really consider Providence a college town. And yeah, like I said, the overall vibe, there's definitely a bit more students walking around, and people overall seemed a bit more chill than some of the other ivies that I went to. But again, a pretty hard category to judge. But overall, I honestly really enjoyed my couple hours at Brown. Welcome to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and welcome to what is maybe the most known university, definitely the most known ivy, I think. Welcome to Harvard University. There's quite a bit of people walking around for a Saturday. The issue is, hardly any of them are students. There's so many tourists here, and that probably dials in with my point about it being the most known Ivy, but it is insane. This is definitely up there with one of the best student unions I think I've ever been to, and this is just from seeing like 2 floors of it. As nice as it is, again, it is open to the public during the daytime at least, so that might get a little annoying, but I mean, it does seem like mostly just students doing work in here, so maybe not. Harvard's location, I think, is a pretty great one. It's similar to Penn in that it's like just northwest of a major US city. Obviously over here being Boston, which I do rate a little bit higher than Philadelphia. But the key difference is Penn felt more like a neighborhood of Philadelphia still, whereas Harvard is in Cambridge, which is a whole city on its own. It feels like its own unique place. There's a lot of stuff to do without going to Boston and just staying in Cambridge, which is really nice. But if you ever want to go to a big city, you have that at your disposal as well. So I'm gonna give Harvard a 9 out of 10 for location. Campus-wise, and I'm over here at Harvard Business School now, which is mainly like a grad school, so I'm not counting this. Campus-wise, Harvard is interesting. It definitely has its own dedicated campus, and it's not really intertwined with Cambridge as much as Yale was with New Haven, but I don't know, it almost didn't feel that separate just because of the amount of people that are able to just walk in freely, and it's a tourist activity to just come and see. But just the campus itself, pretty simple, few fields, a lot of buildings that face each other, nothing too special. It's a little hard to judge the vibe of Harvard, but the couple of students I did talk to and just see studying and working all that, I got like a little bit of a mix of a very serious study vibe and a more casual vibe, and it kind of matched the overall vibe I got from Cambridge, which was pretty good, honestly. Forgot to record an outro there, but what I will say is, even though I talked about it being a little annoying that there's a ton of tourists there and that the campus itself was just kind of standard, I did really like Cambridge, and I think that's enough to bump it up to number 2 for me. Cambridge just had a great vibe. There's lots of students everywhere. There's a lot of stuff to do, and definitely had a very college vibe, especially given that there's a lot of other universities within Boston as well. But then if you do want that big city feel, you can just hop on a train for 15 minutes and you're in the center of Boston. So yeah, Harvard I think definitely deserves a lot of its hype. Now that still leaves the number 1 spot as Princeton, and that was honestly really shocking for me. I did not expect it to rank this high. I know some people rank it like bottom, but after going through college, I realized how much I value true college town and everyone being in the same general area, not split up by a massive city in the middle, or even just a city in general breaking it up. I'm looking at you, Yale, while still having small elements of city life like a main street like Princeton does have. So yeah, just taking all the factors into account, putting it head to head with some of the others, I think I would enjoy it myself the most there. Obviously that's not true for everyone. Take everything that I saw in this video and said with a little grain of salt and apply it to how you feel you would be in college. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching this through. It was fun for me to go explore all of these for the first time. And here are the final rankings once again. So if you're lucky enough to get into any of these, you're probably gonna have a good time regardless. But that's how I see it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later. Peace out.